Okay, so I'm back with another of these tag ephemera thingies. If I am going to complete Crafty Cat's 50 stack challenge, got a long way to go because this is only number 7 and she's already up to number 36, so we'll see. So prompt 7 is lace. There's not a whole lot of lace, and as I've told you before, initially for the first 24 of these at least, I'm sort of being inspired by Tracy Fox's last year's December Daily, and this was what I made for that. It's not Christmas themed, so it's a tag that opens with another pocket and a tag in there. So this was the original. So then I made this one, which is very similar. This is the lace. There's not a whole lot of lace, but there is lace there, so I think it meets the prompt. But I don't know, I wasn't 100% with that one, so I made version 3, and this is the one that we're going to make today. So I've changed it into the less of a tag. I've added a tab here so that you know to pull it down, and I just really liked this version, so that's the one we're going to do today. So if we get started, I've got a piece of card, 11.5 by 3.5, and I've scored it at 6.5 from this edge, so it folds up like so. Okay. I'm using a corner rounder. You can use the 1/4 inch or the 1/2 inch. I think I'm just going to leave it at the 1/4 inch. So we do those 4 corners like so. And then I'm going to cover each of these sections in book page. Doesn't matter, vintage book page, doesn't really matter what you use. Probably start with that one. So I'm going to use the reason I'm doing it in 4. I mean, it doesn't really matter, but it just leaves this fold a little freer. So you just go up to the fold, not over it, on each of these. So I'm going to do this one, I'm going to do the back, and I'm going to do this one. So I'm going to go away and just do this with glue stick, and then I'll be back. I'm not quite, so we've got an inner tag as well, and this one measures 2 3/4 by 5 1/4. Let's write it on there. 2 3/4 by 5 1/4, and this one was 11.5 by 3.5, and that's scored at 6.5. Okay, and I'm going to cover one side of this with book page, and I'm going to cover one side of it with a botanical image, and I've chosen this one from this book. But any image will do. I've also fussy cut an image to put on the front of the one I'm making. Let's leave that like that so you can see that. So this is my fussy cut image, which is going on the front, and I've also got a little piece of it's an old handkerchief actually, which I'm going to make the pocket out of, but I'll show you that properly in a minute. So if initially you cover each of the 4 sides in book page, this one with a whole image on one side and book page on the other, and then we'll come back. So I thought I'd come back and just show you how I do the last bit, because I do each piece separately and then cut it down to make the next one easier. So I've done 3 sides, and this one as well is going to go long ways, whatever that means, long ways. Ooh. It's a new glue stick. do get through a huge amount of glue sticks. But I never have any real problems with the Scotch ones. I've got collage books that I made years and years and years ago using glue stick, and they are still all stuck. So I think as long as you choose a quality one, it's fine. So I'm trying to keep it straight. I can just see the edge to there. So I'm just missing this fold line. And then just to fill this side, I've torn another bit of book page. Let's just cut the top off there. And I've already glued this, so let's just glue this edge. Just use that to cover up that piece there. And then you can see I'm trying to use non-stick scissors, and then I just cut round. So as I say, I do each side individually and do this each time. That'll straighten out as the glue dries. So that's that piece, and we'll cover this in a tag. You can see I've been practicing making envelopes. I couldn't get the size right. So I want this image on here. So I'm looking roughly to see where, if I just hold that up to the light, I can see roughly where I need to place that. And if I cut it off here, it's not very straight. I know that that'll be roughly in the right place. So I'm I'm going to glue my substrate, my card. Cut that off. Oh, getting hot. I haven't got the heating on, so I put an extra, can you see, an extra cardigan layer on today. But I don't really need it at the moment. Not sure whether it's being on video, or at least my hands being on YouTube, that makes me get a bit hot and bothered when I'm doing this, maybe. Okay, so that's our image for the inside tag, and I will put a piece of book page on the back of that just to finish that off. So I'll get that done and I'll be back shortly. So I'm going to do a bit more gluing and sticking before I talk to you about the sewing. So this is how it's going to sort of sit in when it's finished, and we're going to have 3 tabs sort of above each other like this, and I've cut text tabs from that same book, the Victorian Garden book. Could use anything really. Edith Holden would look nice. If you haven't got, I've used my Stampin' Up whale tail punch tab. If you haven't got that, just strips of paper, approximately 2 inches or 2.5 inches by 1, and they would look just as good up there. So that's an alternative. You could also round the corners of those. Let's just try try that and see. I think that would look nice as well. So this is the sort of thing I did before I had that punch. So yeah, probably around the corners to match everything else up. And those would just fold over each tab. But anyway, so the first thing I'm going to look at is my fussy cut. And this is where it's going to go with a Tracy Fox label. If you're not into fussy cutting and you want to do this version, this image is approximately 3 by 3 1/4, and I've mounted it on a little bit of cream paper, stitched it round and then glued it onto the onto here, because I didn't want the cross stitched the zigzag stitch to show through to that side, so I zigzag it and then glue it down. So that's an alternative. So that's 3 by 3 1/4. But I'm going to stick to this version, which I like. I want this to be quite high up, so I'm going to pop my tab on first, just so that it goes over the tab, but I'm leaving enough room for stitching. So let's pop the tab on first. And I am going to mark the middle as best I can. So that's around there. And for this, I'll use a little bit of white glue. It's the middle. So that's that one. And then we'll just place this again. So I'm just going to have that there and that there. So let's pop this on first. And then we'll glue our, again, I'm still using glue stick. These can be quite delicate, these fussy cuts, so just be careful that your glue stick doesn't rip the stalk, which is quite thin, in this case anyway. I want that over the edge there, but not quite to the top. Not put quite enough glue on that. Just a bit of kitchen towel. And then snip off these little bits that are overhanging. And now we're going to put tab on this one. That's the centre of that. That's the centre of that. So I'm going to glue these tabs on in the same way. And then I'll come back and talk to you about the next step. Right, I'm back. I've glued my tabs on, so they'll fall something like that. Quite like the way that looks. And now we're going to get the pocket ready. So this piece of fabric is 3 inches deep, about. Doesn't matter about the width. I am going to glue it first, and I'm going to use this acrylic, well, it's PVA really, but a good quality PVA, not too watery. And I'm going to go take this off, obviously, and I'm going to glue 3 inches up along the bottom. So and I'm going to go very close to the edge here. And here, and then along the bottom. So just a little smidgen. I've got too much there really down in this corner, so I might just try and get rid of a little bit of that. And then I'm going to hold this on, and I'm just going to stretch it across. And hold that down while it grabs. You'll feel it sticky through, but that doesn't matter. Especially make sure this bottom is stuck. There we go. We are going to stitch over this as well, but I want that to grab. But I also want to just check that this will slide in, and it will. So I might be able to pull that a little bit tighter still. The glue helps you get it tight, which on a fabric pocket isn't always easy if you're just stitching it. So that's that. So I'm going to let that dry now, all of it dry. And then what we're going to do is stitch. So I'm going to stitch across here in zigzag, just to give it a bit of definition. And then I'm going to go round, have it in here, I'm going to go round there in straight stitch. I'm going to go around here in straight stitch, making sure that I catch this bottom edge in. I think I'm going to choose to do zigzag along this bottom, just to make sure that I catch it all with the sewing machine. So straight stitch and zigzag across the bottom, zigzag, straight stitch around there, and then I'm going to do a straight stitch around this tag as well. So I'm going to do that once the glue has dried. We've got a little paper clip with a bit of seam binding on there. On this one I curled the edges and added a charm, so that's what I'm going to do now. I'm just going to get that ready. So to curl the edges, or curl the ends, this wasn't my idea, but I'm so sorry, I saw it a very long time ago and I can't remember who did it originally, but I've got some round edge, what do they call these? Come from the jewellery making section, and I just twist that over. And on these paper clips, don't always do the inner one, but these have quite a long wire, and I just try and make those as flat as I can. And then I'm going to attach this charm with a little hopefully this is big enough. Oh dear. I work in a very small space, as you can see. Okay, so these are flat nose, maybe they're round nose. This is a little tiny jump ring, so this is very fiddly. Don't know whether I can do this on screen, so I've pulled that towards me to open it, popping it in there. This is where I drop it. through there, and then I'm just going to squeeze those two together again. I'm sorry if this isn't very clear, and I'm probably talking very quietly because I'm concentrating. I've closed those up again. So that's our little paper clip with a charm on it. So let me go away and stitch, and then I'll come back and finish off. Right, we're back for the finishing touches. I've done my stitching. It's quite pale. I've used a pale pink. I felt like this one needed a more neutral look. So the finishing touches, I'm going to stamp my pocket just to add something to that. So I've just slipped some paper inside there. I'm using a stamp from Creative Expressions designed by Sam Poole, who most of you probably know. And I'm using archival ink. This pad is quite dry. And I'm just going to stamp that along the bottom here. Give it a minute to make sure the ink sits and settles. So it should, I hope, come out fairly pale. Yeah, there we go. Because it was dry. But I didn't want a really dark black on that one. So that's our pocket. Could always add another little charm on here, but I won't go that far. That's how it closes up. We've got our little charm on here. And I'm going to tie a little bit of seam binding on the edge there. I've got some blue which matches the blue flower. I just need a small piece on here. Crinkled seam binding from Splattered Inky on Etsy. And then I'm going to put a bow on the top. So to make a hole with my crocodile. Really like to use a silver eyelet, but I haven't got any at the moment. Just debating whether to use a green one. Yeah, I use a green one. And then we're going to use a bit more of this seam binding to create a bow at the top. And the way I do this to judge the amount is I tie the bow that way, and I'd say that was a bit short, so we'll just go a bit longer. Cut that off. This is really crinkled there. Just tie this, turn it off to the side a little bit. Wants to go that way, which is fine. Bows are funny things, you do have to fiddle with them to get them right. That'll probably do. So that's our finished tag. I put some plainish writing paper in the back pocket as well, just to create an obvious break, I suppose, between these tabs. But I think the tab on the front is a definite improvement to my originals. I think the round style looks nice as well, but now I've got a whole collection of them. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you all again soon.